There are a couple of ways that we can set up the MySQL database. In the previous title, we saw how we could use PHP MyAdmin. If you're comfortable with that and that's all set up, feel free to go ahead and create a new database here. You can also issue raw SQL commands through PHP MyAdmin, but I'm going to go ahead and do it from the command line just so that you can see how that's done as well. So from the command line, I'm able to just talk to MySQL by saying MySQL and then -u for user and root. So it's the root password. So you're going to need to know your root password for MySQL. Now, if you followed me in the essential training, the password we set up was capital O, then lowercase t and L, then capital PHP 07. And that was the password that we had set up. If you've forgotten your root password, you can go to the MySQL website and there's instructions there for how to reset it. And you'll want to follow those. But if this works for you and you're inside MySQL with root and password, then now we have the ability to create new databases because we're logged in as root. So creating a database is easy. The caps that I'm typing for create database are not essential. It's just considered good MySQL practice, just so that it makes it really clear the difference between the MySQL commands and then the strings I'm passing. So create database photo gallery. That's what I'm going to name it. Got a semicolon at the end, and that will create my database. If you're using PHP MyAdmin, you'll then want to click on that database to select it and be able to keep working with it. If you're here, we have to type use photo gallery, and that will sort of switch us into the photo gallery. It'll then know that's the database that we're working with, but we have to type that use at the beginning. And then I'm going to go ahead and just paste in some MySQL. You can pause the movie if you need to copy it down for the user table. Take a look there. I'm going to create the table users. I'm going to have an ID int11, not null auto increment. We've seen that before. Going to have a username that can be 50 characters long, password can be 40 characters long, first name 30 characters long, last name 30 characters long, and the primary key will be ID. Nothing we haven't seen before. So now we have our database and we have our first table on there, users, and that's where we're going to start, is working with our users table. The one additional step that I want us to take that we did not do in the essential training. In the essential training, if you remember, we just logged in as root all the time. That's a bad practice. We don't want our web application to be logging in as root. Root really should be reserved for the times when we want to log in and do these kinds of special operations. So instead, we're going to create a new user. And the way we do that is by typing grant all privileges on, and then the name of the database, dot asterisk, that's the wildcard to say everything that's on Photo Gallery. Grant those privileges to, and then inside single quotes, the name of the user that you want to make it. I'm going to make my user called Gallery. You could call it photographer, you could call it your first name, it can be anything. But the key here is it's not root. At, and then go ahead and put tick localhost tick again. So in between those single quotes, localhost. And then identified by, and I decided that my password for this user will be PHP OTL123. So you can make it something else if you want, just make sure that you remember it, write it down. But PHP OTL123 is what I'll be using. And just by issuing that one command, it creates the user. So the user gallery with the password PHP OTL123 now has access. So that's all we need to do in MySQL for now. So I'll go ahead and type quit to get out of that. And let's switch back to our photo gallery. And I'll open up TextMate and we'll start a new file. And if you remember before, we had a config file that we put in our includes. We're going to do that again. Config.php. And this will hold our configuration information. So if you remember what we did in the essential training, we set up some constants, right? Some database constants. And these are the ones that we had set up then. I've just simply cut and pasted them in here. We're going to obviously want to change those now for our new user to gallery and the password PHP OTL123. And our database now is just going to be called photo gallery. There's one additional change that I want to make here. We're defining a constant. A constant can only be defined one time. We've talked about that before. So it's good practice to always get in the habit of whenever you're defining a constant to check and see whether it's already defined or not. It makes it very error resistant. So the way we're going to do that is by checking to see if it's defined. So we could do if parentheses not defined with a D on the end and then DB server, right? And then we can put our brackets around it. And now it's like an if-then statement. So if it's not defined, then define it. The more common way you'll see this written is like this. They're using that ternary operator. So if it's defined, then return null. If it's not defined, then define it. And that's the format that I want us to use here. So I'll go ahead and paste all those in. There we go. So again, if you need to take a moment to copy those down, but make sure you understand mostly what we're doing there. We're saying if it is defined, then do nothing. Otherwise, take a second and define it. So now we have our database, we have our user table, and we've set up the constants that we're going to be using to connect to the database. Now we're going to be ready in the next chapter to start creating the MySQL database class.